There's also this other story that's out there where, according to Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk, that the NFL may extend invitations to the draft for players who are projected to be selected later in the 3-day process. So that means it's not just the first-round guys or a Will Levis who decides, you know what, even though I'm going to go day 2, I'm just going to go ahead and bail and get the hell on out of here. It's going to be everybody else in the draft potentially getting invites to go ahead and fill this whole thing out, which why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Like, if this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, why not open it up and let everybody share, even if they're not a day 1 pick and they go round 2, 3, et cetera, et cetera? If you've got the room, why not make it happen?
And this was all based on they are having a hard time getting more people to want to go to the draft. Is that in essence what it is?
Yeah, because more and more people are just like, I'll just do it at home, do my own thing.
Yeah. Which, okay, so let me just peel back the curtains. I still stand by this, and this is not a knock on Green Bay, Wisconsin, or any other city that's hosted the draft, by the way. New York's different, though. All right, folks? Like, it's New York. There's something to that. There's certain cities that kind of have that, aura about it, however you want to put it. No different than when we had the Super Bowl in Las Vegas. And when we walked away from that, everyone goes, this wouldn't be a bad sight to just have the Super Bowl here every year. Like, I think everyone would be excited about that. That was kind of the draft. It used to be in New York. And when you were invited, when you went, it was one of the coolest experiences, one of the best weeks, things that the way you were able to impact, young kids' lives, even doing some different things too, and meeting people around the NFL. The entire thing was awesome. Since they've moved it around, though, to me, it's lost a bit of its luster. And if you want me to really peel back the curtain, one of the ways and one of the reasons why maybe more guys used to go to New York and like to go to New York was because a lot of these companies that are spending marketing dollars on these draft prospects were able to do media tours. It's the number one media market. So players would go ahead of time, even players who would choose not to sometimes go to the draft, or maybe they weren't invited. They would still go to New York. You would go through a bunch of, different, you could be sitting in a conference room doing a ton of different radio interviews. You could be going to different radio studios, going to different TV shows and places. You'd go to promote whatever product it is or brand that you're promoting. That was kind of part of it. And it got looped in as part of it. So you had a financial incentive to go. And that was back before NIL. And so, not to get into the weeds on this, but LaVar, we kind of talked about this yesterday, right? And my theory with Petros was, and even in regards to kind of the Nico situation and his family, was that's all some of these kids know. Jonas, 40 states now allow kids in high school to be paid NIL. So if you really think about it, when parents have kids who show promise in junior high, they're already thinking dollar signs when they get to high school. That's how crazy this whole process has become. Jeez. There's representation for high school kids. So if you look at it from that standpoint, and you really think about this, for example, if you go back to the 2023 high school QB class going into college, this is the top 8 quarterbacks: Arch Manning, Nico Iamaleava, Dante Moore, Jackson Arnold, Malachi Nelson, Jaden Rashada, Aiden Childs, Austin Mack. Every single one but Arch Manning has transferred. And Arch probably could have, right? Like, that was there for him. But in most cases, there was probably some sort of financial incentive to end up to go somewhere else based on where some of these top quarterbacks went to. And it was opportunity too. But it goes to show you, like, that's kind of the business of this. And so these generations now that are coming through high school to college to the NFL, you have to incentivize them. Like, the NFL brought me in to consult after my draft day experience. Like, hey, what can we do to bring more guys here? We're having a hard time doing this. This is back in like 2009, 2010. And I said to him back then, I go, you need to create opportunities to pay them to be there. And that's just the truth. As much as it's a great experience, these kids nowadays, they can stay at home because they can make money off it. They can kind of sell it as a live TV show, a reality TV show, if you will, because that's what the NFL's doing. They're profiting off it. And so if they're not paying these kids to be a part of their reality TV show, which is the draft, why not try to stay at home and do it yourself? At least you're able to get something from it.
I could see both sides of it, moving it around, trying to get exposure into different markets, create some excitement in the different markets of where the teams are. But I do think that there is something about establishing a destination. And if you're moving to destination, I don't know that it has as much appeal. If you had continued to build off of what you were doing at Radio City and, Madison Square Garden and how that all works and, the pageantry of it and the history of it that's connected to it, maybe this isn't the situation or the scenario that's being discussed. I really think that the longevity of success that was there for the NFL draft before all of this became a thing was based upon those very elements. I mean, if you can recall how the draft was marketed, I mean, just seeing the different players and players that we grew up idolizing and were our heroes, and showing that moment of when they got the call in the green room and what that looked like, and putting the hat on and hugging your family and dapping up your agent or whatever it may be, and then going out onto the stage. I mean, and for what it's worth, hugging the commissioner did not start with Roger Goodell, by the way. I know it's like this whole thing about Roger Goodell, the first person. I guess Gerald McCoy is credited with being the one who started the trend of hugging the commissioner when you get drafted. I don't know how true that is, because I ton of people, every time you went on stage, hug Paul Tagliabue.
Did you hug him?
Of course. Hell yeah. I just got hired by the NFL.
Did you shake the hand and then pull him in for a hug, or just go straight hug?
I shook his hand first.
Oh, okay.
And then I gave him a hug. Yeah. Good to see you. It was. I mean, it's.
Who are you talking about? Paul Tagliabue?
Yeah. It was quite an experience, and I think it loses some of its luster when you take risk to expand and maybe make it more appealing or more sellable to advertisers by going to different venues. I mean, some of them are just meant to be where they're meant to be, if you ask me. Now, the Super Bowl has always been a move-around deal, but the draft was situated, and so was the Pro Bowl. And I think that, you don't know until you know if it's going to be a success or a flop. But I feel like they're 2 for 2 on flopping and in some regards, moving both the Pro Bowl and moving the NFL draft. Just my take.
So you don't like the draft being moved out of?
I'm not going to say I don't like it being moved, but if you were to ask me which one would be, if you're asking me to show up, even as an alumni, which I was invited to do the pick for the Commanders this year.
Why didn't you go?
I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I'm going to do the show here, and then I'm going to fly out and go see the blue-white game the next day. But I just didn't feel any, like, why do I want to go to Green Bay, Wisconsin for the draft? So I'm not trying to throw shade. I'm just saying I don't want to go. And I just not, if it had been in New York and I announced the pick in New York for the team as well, I think there's more cachet. I think there's more draw. I think there's more reason to want to go to the draft and be a part of that event if it's being held in a place like New York City.
So if it was New York, you would have gone.
I thought about it. I would have gave it more thought than what I did for this.
So it is a Green Bay thing.
I mean, it's not. I just don't. It is. It's. You know what I mean. I don't want to go to Green Bay.
But it's like, that's
if it were for a game, it's different, right? If I'm going to Green Bay, that's one of the places you go for the pros to get an experience. But as far as going there for a draft, and I'm sure it's probably going to be a nice activation. I mean, the NFL does a great job with their activations. It's not. I'm not throwing shade. I'm just saying, in general, is that more attractive? Is it more attractive to say we're moving it around and, okay, you had a great one. You had a great pool when it went to Tennessee. Like, everybody that talks about the one that was in Tennessee, they rave about that one. And I think they felt like it was going to be a consistent, constant deal, that it would be as good in every other market, and it just hasn't been that.
I've heard nothing but good things about it. Like, because it started in Chicago, it went to Philly, it went to Dallas, it's been to Detroit last year.
People said Detroit's was nice. I don't know the appeal of it. I could see how it could be appealing to want to go to a different market, but I just think if it's in New York and historical value of it, the market that it's in, I thought it was amazing. As a player, I thought it was amazing. When I went back as an alumni, I also thought it was equally amazing being in New York City for the draft.
Well, just want to apologize to the city of Green Bay, for its fine place.